evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Korean International Affairs Fair. We're delighted to see so many people here. Just again as a reminder, we've got free Wi-Fi if anybody wants it, and the password is give me Wi-Fi. Just on another note, I mentioned to a few of you, but we have a special deal for anyone attending today who is brave enough to climb up the O2. If you want to climb up there today, either at lunchtime or I was going to say after school, that's not going to work. after the event, just come and contact me and I can give you the password for it. They give you shoes and clothes, so you don't have to worry about that. Today's event is something that we've been planning for a very long time, and we're very, very excited to have the speakers and also yourselves. We have these youngsters here who are from a local school, and it really was an initiative to try and inspire from a very young age, and it's actually quite amazing to hear some of these children. They're from year 3 to year 5, and they're already quite interested in international affairs, so we're really, really delighted to have you here. I'd like to welcome our hosts, Denise Scott MacDonald, who's a cabinet member for culture, creative industries and community wellbeing. So if you just join us in welcoming Denise.
Thanks, Jai, and I think this is a great opportunity for you all. I just want to share a little story that happened to me. I used to work as a reporter in New York, and I worked for a station called WNYC. But a while back ago, in this country, I was asked to speak, much like an event like this, a careers event, at a church in North London for a whole bunch of teenagers. And the reason why I was invited was because the pastor of the church said to me, "You work as a university lecturer, which is my other life, other than working in the council. I want you to come and inspire these young teenagers." And I thought, oh God, I better say yes, but I don't know what I'm going to say to these young teenagers. So the night before the event, I was talking to my partner, and I was like, what can I say to these teenagers? I have nothing in common with them. How can I get them to think about university and going on and doing great things with their lives? And so my partner goes, tell them the Barack Obama story. And I'm like, the Barack Obama story? He goes, yeah, they always love it. Everyone always loves the Barack Obama story. So I got to the church, and I walked in, and there were tons and tons of young people. More than the people in this room right now. They were all sitting there. And I sat there thinking, and my whole confidence dropped, because there was also a rapper who was also going to be speaking as well as me. And every time they mentioned the rapper's name, the whole place exploded. And then every time they mentioned my name, it was like completely zilch, completely. And I was like, God, I've got to speak with a rapper. And then I got up, and then I stood at the podium, and I said to them all, I said, who's met Barack Obama? And I put my hand up. And then one little girl right at the front put her hand up. So in my mind, I'm like, I've got to change this story, because I don't know what this little girl's going to say. And then the pastor grabbed her hand. She goes, yes, she shook his hand. And I was like, great, how did you meet him? He came to my school, she said. And I got to play table tennis with him. And I was like, that's fantastic, that's brilliant. I said, I met Barack Obama. I said, was it media and press? And she went, yeah, there were lots of photographers, and it was fantastic. And I said, I met Barack Obama, but there was no media or press. I said, it wasn't awful, it wasn't terrible, but it was much, much more simpler than yours. And I said to her, so she looked at me, and I said, and it was when I was working in New York as a reporter. This ordinary guy in a blue suit, not like you guys are all in your blue suits, walked into our newsroom. And at the time, this was way before anyone was talking about him running for president. And he came into our newsroom. He had just done some speeches at the Democrat convention, and so political geeks like myself were all excited because we recognized him instantly, and we were like, he's the black guy with a funny name. And he walked up to me, and the only thing he said to me was, can you tell me the way to the toilet? And that was it, that was it. And then I showed him the way to the newsroom toilet, which was one of the most horrible toilets in the world. But not only that, one of our reporters had covered him in Chicago, and so was talking to him. And then I turned to the room in the church, and I said, I don't know whether today I am talking, just like the ordinary black guy in a blue suit walked in the newsroom, I don't know when I'm talking to the next president of the United States or anyone. And when I said that, the whole room sat up straight, because every child in that room suddenly realized he was an ordinary guy walking through the doors of a newsroom at a time when no one knew who he was, but he had a future. And that's why I'm here today, is just to encourage you all that you all may think you're ordinary, you all may think you don't have much to offer, but you're all just like that ordinary guy that walked in the newsroom a few years ago, way before everyone was talking about him running for president. And I don't know whether I'm talking to the next Madeleine Albright, or the next Kofi Annan, or anyone. So I'm really excited today to inspire people and to really take advantage of today and really have a really great time learning from people, networking. I mean, you've got some great people here, and I looked at the agenda, so it's really wonderful to be here. And I know Shai has worked incredibly hard on this. I would like to welcome Millennium School. It's great to start early, always great to start early, because I started early. I started in a family where political debating and talking was the norm, and getting involved with politics was the norm. And you know, we live in extraordinary times, and I would like to welcome you to Greenwich. We've got the first leader of the council, the woman, and when I got onto the cabinet, it made the cabinet 50% women. There's so few women, so I want to encourage you women to take advantage of today, because there are so few of us, even in international work, and I've done some international work. When I lived in New York, I also worked for a tiny NGO, and I was a UN representative, because someone came up to me and go, Denise, you'd be great, come to the UN with us. And I got a chance to represent this tiny organisation called FemVision, and it was a fantastic opportunity to network with people at the UN while I was working as a reporter. So I would just say take advantage of today. And we have two excellent people here today from FCO. We have Aman, Rue, and Hannah, and they're going to share some stuff for us and all hopefully help you guys move to the next level and the next step. Thank you.
Come out from behind there. Good morning, I'm Hannah Killeen. I work in the recruitment team in the HR department at Foreign Commonwealth Office. This is my colleague.
I'm Aman Rube. I work with Hannah in FCO recruitment as well.
And we're here today to tell you a bit about what the Foreign Office does and how you can get to work for the Foreign Office one day if you're interested. Most of you probably already know, but just in case you don't, the Foreign Office is the ministry in the government that looks after foreign and international affairs. And the Foreign Office, when David Cameron needs to go and speak to a different country, he sends the Foreign Secretary to go and do that for him. So we cover basically anything to do with Britain's relations with the world. It can be anything from human rights or denuclearisation or terrorism or treaties, trade, and we are also the people that help British people when they get into trouble overseas. If you're overseas, you're a victim of crime, you lose your passport, you get taken ill and have to go to hospital, you might well call the British Embassy, and that will be one of our colleagues that helps you out. So our job covers a wide range of different things. We have a very varied career, so I've been in the office for 10 years, and in that time you change jobs every 2 or 3 years. I've worked on European Union policy with crisis management and civilian peacekeeping missions. I have worked on the North and South Korea desk, dealing with North Korean denuclearisation and human rights, and also at the same time South Korean trade treaties, which was a bit of a weird combination. And I've done a posting to Albania. I was in Albania for 3 years as the political officer, so my claim to fame is not as great as Denise's, but I have met all the presidents of Albania since the fall of communism.
Brilliant.
Yeah, not as impressive. And when I came back from Albania, I worked in our counter-terrorism department as a kidnap case manager, so we were the team that were trying to help the people who've been kidnapped by terrorist organisations. You may remember a couple of years ago, Alan Henning and David Haynes. They were cases of ours. We did our best to help them. Not all our cases ended as badly as those two did, I have to say. And after I'd done 2 years in that team, I then moved into the HR department, and now I work in recruitment, specifically on graduate recruitment and our fast stream, which I will talk about a bit more later. So my career is dotted around all over the place. That is fairly normal for a diplomat. Every 2 years or 3 years, your job comes to an end and you apply for your next job. You get to choose what you do, so you're not posted like you're in the army. You apply for whatever jobs are available when you're due to move, and hopefully you get the one that you want. I'll pause there and let Amanroop explain what she's done in her time in the office, because it will be very different to what I've done.
Hi everyone, I've been in the office for 8 years. So I joined the home base cadre. So when you join, you either join the diplomatic service or you join the home base service. And so I'm based in London. I don't get posted overseas, and so my jobs are mostly, working through different geographical desks here, or a range of different departments in London. And that's just as exciting actually as being a diplomat. Working here on the London desks. I worked, my last job before I joined Human Resources was the Japan and Mongolia desk officer. A really fascinating insight into what our relations are like with two very different countries. With Japan, we've got very long established relations. They've got the Olympic Games coming up, so we've got lots of things that we can share with them about that. Very, very good relationship we've got with them, and what things can we do to make sure that relationship stays good, and make sure that as we go forward, we're walking together on the same shared values. With Mongolia, very different priorities. The UK was the first Western country to recognise Mongolia and have an embassy in Mongolia. So we've got this shared history there. We've got really good positive things that we can talk about and we can celebrate. So it's really interesting being here in London and working with the embassies here about what our relationship is and what we can do going forward. Before I worked on Mongolia and Japan, I worked in Communications Directorate on the Olympic Games. So a year before the Olympic Games started, my role was to work with all of our embassies overseas, over 260 embassies that we have, to help them promote the Games, to help them promote what London has achieved through the Games, up until a year after the Games, when we were working on the legacy and what we've really done. So it was about promoting sport, promoting our culture, promoting our values, promoting trade deals, and our expertise that we've built up through the Games, sharing that with Rio, sharing that with Japan, and sharing that with everyone else. So it was about setting up these relationships with other countries that wanted to share and learn from us. And before that, I was in the crisis management department. Again, as Hannah was explaining, it's one of our consular duties. It's something that the FCO does that I don't think anyone else in the country does. Is when Brits are in need overseas and there's a crisis, it's the Foreign Office who gets involved. So when there's been the recent earthquakes in Japan and Ecuador, it's the Foreign Office who will then just make sure that the Brits overseas are okay, that they've got the right advice. So it's about working with the host government, the other governments, to say what advice are you giving the community that we can share with the Brits as well, to make sure they're going to the right place and they're safe. So I had a really fantastic 2 years working in crisis management, and it really showed you're at the heart of what the Foreign Office does in helping people, and you can really see your results straight away about what you're doing. So I was chartering planes at one point, and it's a whole range of different things. So you've got your natural disasters. You don't know when those are going to happen, and so you might be called in the middle of the night to come into work and start working on particular topics, or things that we can plan for. When we know trouble is brewing in a particular region, or if we know that there's something we can plan for, we will do that as well, and monitoring the news and monitoring what's going on. So that's my career up to date, and now I'm working in recruitment on graduate internships and recruiting interns into the Foreign Office to get a taste of what it's like in the Foreign Office before they choose what to do next.
So having given you a bit of an idea what the Foreign Office has been like for us, I guess the next step is to explain how you could join, how you would get there. As say, your career will take you wherever you want it to. The main route to join at the moment, our graduate entry is through the Civil Service Fast Stream, which some of you may have heard about. That's a government-wide scheme for recruiting graduates. So if you Google Civil Service Fast Stream, it'll explain how that works. There are, I think, 16 different schemes of various types, everything from science and engineering to digital communications to HR. There are all sorts of careers that you can have with government through the Fast Stream. Ours is the Diplomatic Service Fast Stream, so you would join as a generalist working with the Foreign Office. You would do 2 years in London, 1 year in a sort of policy role, like Amanroop's job on the Japan and Mongolia desk, or my job in EU department. So you'd spend a year shaping policy, advising ministers, working with our embassy overseas, whichever country it was, to deliver Britain's priorities and to work with the country or countries that you work with, to try and steer policy as far as you can. Doesn't always work that way. I did 18 months working on North Korean denuclearization, and about 3 months before I finished they did a nuclear test. So that's how policy work goes sometimes. So first year, and then your second year you do a more operational role, which could be a consular job or a crisis management job like Amanroop was just describing. It could also be working in the Minister's office, working in our press office, or something even more operational than that, project delivery, project management. Where the Foreign Office is currently getting a lot more project funding. We've got a new fund to increase British trade, and we also have a conflict prevention fund. They've just changed the name of it, I can't remember what they call it now, but we've got several £million to spend, and we're looking for project managers who have the skills to come in and help us spend that wisely and get results. So that might be something you would do in your second year as a fast streamer. 2 years you're off the fast stream, we kind of release them into the wild. At that point you get to bid on whatever you like. Most people go overseas at that point. It's not obligatory. If your personal circumstances mean that it's not convenient for you to go overseas. One of my fast streamers just come to me and had to pull a posting in Russia because they're going to have a baby and it will just get confused with their maternity leave, so they're going to do a posting in London for the next 2 years and then go overseas after that. So the career is flexible, you can fit it around your personal life. You do have to bear in mind that you will be spending about half your career normally overseas, but as I say, you don't have to. If it's not convenient to go on a posting right now, you can stay in London, as Amanroop has, and in fact as I have. I could theoretically have gone overseas last year, but I was getting married and it wasn't really a good moment to suddenly disappear to the other side of the world. So I've stayed in another London job, and when I'm due to move on again next year, I'll see where I am and what my husband wants to do, whether he wants to drop his career for a couple of years and go somewhere interesting. So as you get older you have to make that calculation as part of your career, but the office does give you a lot of support. Families, for spouses and partners going overseas, there's a lot of advice and we do our best to help people, particularly recognising that spouses and partners' careers do get badly affected if they have to disappear off to the other end of the earth for 3 years with you. So I won't go into too much detail, but if you've got specific questions at the end, then please ask and I'll explain. Going back to how you join, got slightly distracted. So Faststream is an annual scheme. It's applications in September every year. I'm not sure of the exact dates, but keep your eyes out for the applications opening. Faststream has a Facebook page. We have a careers Twitter account, which we can tell you about later. If you follow those, you'll see when the window opens. The entry process is quite long. They're trying to make it shorter for next year, so I won't. I'm not quite sure how they're going to change it, but they're going to try and bring more people through the process more quickly, so that it will take about 12 weeks from application to the final stage. There are 3 stages. You start out with online tests, then there is a video interview, and the final stage is an assessment centre. If you're applying for the Foreign Office, you then come to us for a final selection board. Again, if you've got specific questions, I can explain that in more detail afterwards. And it's all there on the Faststream website, gov.uk/Faststream. Have a look there for the detailed information. Having got in, you would join in November. As say, you do 2 years in London and then you go off overseas. That's a quick summary. Anne-Marie also wants to tell you about internship opportunities, so I'll hand back over to her.
Yeah, so the FCO runs a graduate internship programme. It runs for about 9 to 10 months. It starts in the summer, so this year's scheme is starting in June and it runs until March 2017. So we bring in about 30 recent graduates. If you've graduated in the last 3 years, you're welcome to apply for that scheme. And so interns come in and take on a range of roles around the office. So this, we ask departments around the office in London to host an intern for the 9-10 months that they're going to be with us. And they take on a range of different projects around the office: corporate jobs, operational roles, policy jobs. So you might be working on a geographical desk. You might be working on Japan and Mongolia, for example, or any part of the world. But you also could be posted into a corporate job. So we had an intern working in human resources last year, who ran our university roadshow. So she took diplomats of a whole range of grades, from the PUS down to people who had just joined the Foreign Office, around the country to various universities to just talk about what it's like in the Foreign Office and encourage people to apply for the Faststream. So there's a whole range of opportunities there. One of our interns worked on the range of visits, and so met the Queen and met lots of visiting dignitaries. All the state visits that took place last year. So our interns, they're very much a part of the FCO. They're not just filing and doing admin. They have a really crucial role, and more importantly, it gives them a really great insight into what it's like to work in the Foreign Office. And they have the opportunity then afterwards to apply for the Faststream, just like anyone else does. But it's a really good way to see what the Foreign Office does. Kids, there's also internships that we run for younger students, not as young as you guys yet, but it's something you can keep an eye on in the next few years and see if there is something you'd like to take part in. We have lots of programs for undergraduates and students at college, and we are looking at engaging more with schools actually, so that we can inspire people from a younger age to think about careers in the Foreign Office. We also have a diplomatic academy, so our interns and members of staff of the Foreign Office get to do a whole range of courses just to learn about what it's like, just to learn about the basics of international work. So there's courses on the EU and on UN and working with international organisations, to nuclear policy and everything that we do in the Foreign Office, and that leads to a professional qualification from City and Guild. So there's really great opportunities, really great learning and development opportunities as well. Our Twitter page is FCO Careers, so if you follow that, you'll find out when we'll be advertising for next year. It's usually from around autumn time to spring that we advertise placements, so do keep a look out if you're interested. Thank you.
And also we do advertise some specialist jobs, so if you're in a particular field, we have people working in the Foreign Office who actually know stuff, as opposed to the diplomats who generally know what's written on a piece of paper before them and go and sell it to whoever they're talking to. So we have accountants and IT techs and research analysts who are our institutional memory, and they are experts in a particular country or issue, and they stay working on that job for the whole of their careers. So if you want to specialise in something, that is another option. Those kind of jobs we advertise on our website as jobs, so you would apply for that role and stick in it. Depending on what you go for, there may be career development opportunities, but that will depend on the different roles. So if you're interested in something like that, it has a very long, complicated URL. The easiest thing to do is to Google working for the FCO or something like that and see what opportunities we have at the moment. In terms of a diplomatic career, I was trying to think of the pros and cons. I guess the good thing is moving around every 2 or 3 years, getting to do something completely different. Meanwhile, you do have all the stuff that your mum wants you to have, like a pension and job security and all that kind of dull stuff. So you get the best of both worlds in that sense. And for me, it was getting the opportunity to go to places that I would never go on holiday. Since I've joined, I've been to Albania, obviously, Kosovo, Bosnia, North Korea, South Korea, China, Mongolia. I went riding on a yak in Mongolia, which was probably one of my weirdest experiences. That was not an official duty. We were there over the weekend, so we took the opportunity at our own expense to go and see a bit of Mongolia, which is where I got to go yak riding. So you get to go to all sorts of places, and not necessarily places that you're working on. There are conferences that come up in different places that you get to go to. So just because you're on the career desk doesn't mean you might not go to a conference in Berlin about North Korea or whatever it might be. That was a good thing. Getting to learn a language. I spent 6 months learning to speak Albanian before I went out to Albania. I'm not sure how useful that's going to be for the rest of my life, but it was good fun. It was good fun while I did it, and you get a lot of brownie points, particularly if you speak a language like that where there are almost no foreign speakers of the language. To the extent that I'd make a fairly minor grammar mistake and people just wouldn't understand me because they'd never heard anyone speak Albanian badly, because everyone was a native speaker. So that could be quite challenging on occasions. At one point I had to give a speech to a very similar audience to this about EU integration and reform, and my ambassador said to me, as a development challenge you should give the speech in Albanian. Development challenge is usually code for this is going to be really hard. But I did it. I stood up and I spoke in Albanian, and because I was the only one they didn't need to subtitle, my colleagues spoke in English. They put me on the local television, speaking about justice reform, which was interesting. And I did run in, it wasn't a very big thing, but I did run into a few people who went, "Oh Hannah, we saw you on telly." What slightly depressed me was that nearly all of them followed that up with, "Your Albanian's really good." Thank you, but did you not listen to what I was saying about justice? Okay, never mind. Until I went to buy my potatoes from my local greengrocer just down the road, he went, I saw you on TV. I thought what you said about justice reform was brilliant. I got through to my greengrocer. That was a interesting experience. I think that's about everything I need to go over. Anything else you want to add before we go to questions? No? No.
Thank you for that. Questions, if you just put your hand up and then you guys choose. Just if you could stand up, say your name, where you're from, and then ask your questions. If you can keep them short, that would be fantastic. Any questions?
Very good point. You do have to be a British national to work for the Foreign Office. It is a, what's the phrase, restricted profession. Basically, it requires, the theory is that you require specific loyalty to the Queen because you are representing Her Majesty overseas. And therefore you need to be a British citizen. You can be a naturalised citizen and you can be a dual national, but you do need a British passport.
Stand up for that.
My name is Vanessa and I'm from Office. My question is actually related to what you just asked, which is I'm British, but I wasn't born here, and I just wondered if that has actually been regardless
No, as I say, if you're a naturalised citizen or you've got a dual nationality, that's not a problem. You do need to have lived in the UK for 2 of the last 10 years. That's a practical thing, because when you join the diplomatic service you have to get a fairly high level of security clearance, and in order to give you that security clearance you need to have some sort of presence in the UK, through paying your taxes and all that sort of thing, so that we can find you. So that sounds really creepy, sorry. We can find you. No, we need to be able to security clear you, and we can't do that if you spent your whole life living in another country, but you only need to have been in the UK for 2 years recently. Somebody over this side? No, so for the fast stream there isn't officially an age limit on it. Most people are recent but not usually immediate graduates, so we do get people who join straight out of their final year at university, but the majority of fast streamers tend to be in their mid to late 20s and have spent 2 or 3 years doing something else first. But we do also get people in their early 30s who've had a whole career and then have changed and decided to start again. So it's, if you're willing to go back to the beginning and start as a graduate not an intern, graduate entrant, then go for it. Somebody up the back, gentlemen.
My name is Sam, I'm from Hong Kong. If you find that a lot of people have done a few years of work before going into graduate, what do you find tends to be very useful work to do before entering the field?
Good question. I get asked this one a lot. So there isn't a kind of ideal career path. We have people from all over the place. One of my entrants last year graduated in chemical engineering and had spent 5 or 6 years working for BP as a petrochemicals engineer, and then changed careers and decided to join the Foreign Office. So that's not at all typical, but it's not a barrier to joining. A lot of people graduate in international relations or languages or politics and have spent a few years maybe working for an NGO, for an international organisation, maybe just working overseas in a variety of roles. Those things are all useful, but they're not essential. Basically, we're looking for people who have the ability to deal with people. So any kind of job where you're managing people or dealing with customers, or just having to deal with people on a daily basis is a good grounding. It doesn't matter if you've not worked overseas. Any kind of, even your Saturday job working at McDonald's can be useful because it's teaching you customer service and it's teaching you kind of negotiating skills. So don't feel that you have to have some very rigid experience or career path. It's, if you can, let's say, because most people have done a bit of something first, that seems to help. A lot of people who come straight out of university maybe don't have the same confidence, particularly in dealing with people, and they don't always get past the assessment. Part of the assessment is a role play in a line management scenario, and that is where a lot of people trip up because they get thrown into a panic by the idea of managing somebody. You shouldn't. It's listening to what they say and addressing their concerns, and that's really all we're looking for. Again, I think that's one of the reasons that we tend to get people who have done something after university, but as I say, we also get people who come straight in, so there isn't really a typical pattern. Is there anything you want to add on that?
No, that's right. I think all your skills, everything that you've gained can help you through the assessment process. There's no set path.
Say the entry requirement for fast stream is a 2-1 degree, but it's in any subject, so you don't have to have a language, all sorts of things. So you've never seen or learned a language. If you're interested and you're enthusiastic, that's all we really want. Next.
Is there a sort of, when you apply, do you apply for sort of the international or the home one, or is it two separate applications, or do you just apply for the fast stream and then you get picked? Do you pick, or is it chosen for you?
You pick.
Okay.
Yes, so you apply, the diplomat is part of the generalist fast. Civil service has a kind of general civil servant fast stream. You apply for that, and then there are a few sub-branches, one of which is diplomatic service. Also the Houses of Parliament have a generalist fast stream, or you can just stay in the wider civil service and go and work for the Ministry of Defence or Department for Transport or somebody like that. So it is an option. We also take European specialists. You can join the European fast stream, and that also has a diplomatic service option. And the economist fast stream has a diplomatic service option. We are also looking for economists. We struggle a little bit because most people who studied economics want to work for the Treasury, and not necessarily for the Foreign Office, but that is also an option if you've got an economics background. So yeah, you have to pick all the way through your career in the Foreign Office. You have to pick, so you choose your next move at all stages.
Is there a minimum service that you have to give, or is it once you've done the fast stream?
Yeah, so fast stream is 2 years. Most people tend to stay, but you don't have to. And when people do leave, it's usually for family reasons, as I was saying before. The career doesn't always match with having a partner, with having kids. Although we do our best to make it work for you. Some people also leave for financial reasons. I have to say, if you become a diplomat, you will never become rich. I should have mentioned the starting salary. So a fast streamer, you start on currently £27,000. That goes up after 1 year to 29, and after 2 years to 33. After that, we're dependent on the government telling us whether or not we're allowed to have a pay rise, so I can't really say how far it'll go beyond that, but yeah, it's not something you do for the cash, I have to say.
Leading on to that, given that there's departmental cuts across all government departments, as well as the fact that the job itself is really very competitive, how many positions will be sort of advertised, or how many positions are there for 2016?
2016, we're bringing in about 40 fast streamers, and that's about normal. We maybe looking to bring in a few more in 2017, 2018. Now that we've had the spending review settlement in November, we're a bit more sure where we're going to be until the end of this Parliament, so we can be a bit bolder in deciding how many people we need. But yeah, it's usually somewhere between 30 and 40 places a year.
How many applications do you have for?
How many applications? Good question. It's a bit difficult to tell because it's all part of the generalist fast stream, so we don't know until halfway through how many people are actually applying for us. I can say that we are seeing 105 people this year for the final selection board for those 40 places. I think we started out with somewhere around 2,000 applications, but that was the initial people registering an interest, so not all of them will then have taken that all the way through. How many internships do we have?
I just wanted to ask, leading on from what these two have just said about like competition, and obviously you're still an organisation, you need to have job applications, and there's going to be people against other people, so there's going to be that element of competition. But everyone here like wants to work on international affairs, and quite possibly maybe the pressing kind of international problems we face at the moment, maybe things that kind of draw them into it more. And kind of make them realise more that that's what they want to work in. But if everyone wants to do it, everyone wants to help, and people around the world need help. So do you think there should be that element of competition if people want to work in this? Like, should they be able to do it and be able to access it in different ways? Just wondered what you thought of that, especially as obviously working in the Foreign Office, which is lots of people want to be able to work.
So yes, anybody who wants to should be able to. And one of the things we're trying to debunk when we go to events like this is the idea that the Foreign Office are all posh white men who went to Oxford and Eton. That's not true. We are looking for, we don't care about your background. We are looking for people who have the skills that we need. In a sense, people, as you said, the civil service is being cut by the current government. The Foreign Office has suffered a bit less than some departments, not least because we're a pretty small department, so cutting us in the grand scheme of things doesn't make that much difference. May surprise you to hear that the Foreign Office has, I think, the second or third smallest budget of all the ministries in Whitehall. When I joined, they told me that the annual Foreign Office budget, which we used to run, say, 260 embassies all around the world, and our operations in London, and pay our dues to the UN and everything else that we have to do, our entire annual budget would run the NHS for 8 days. So in the grand scheme of things, we're pretty small fish. So we are being cut. We are subject to a recruitment freeze, which is one of the reasons that we are only recruiting through the fast stream at the moment, pretty much, apart from specialist positions. That may change depending on our political masters, and hopefully we'll be able to recruit in different ways in the future, bring more people in. We're certainly being encouraged to offer apprenticeships to school leavers, but also to not just 16-year-old traditional apprenticeships, but also to people coming out with A-levels, coming out of further education, who maybe want to do something more practical than a degree. So that's another thing we're getting into. But yeah, at the moment we're just a bit restricted by government policy.
Is there any intention within the fast track process to include some more feedback so that you can apply the processes we can care and how to bring justice basically?
Yes, so you get feedback. You'll get a feedback report from the Fast Stream Assessment Centre, which is the central Whitehall-wide thing that everybody does, and you also get feedback from the FCO Final Selection Board, so we will send you a written report as well, giving you details on how you can improve and giving you some pointers on where to look.
What stage is that, sorry? Is that only if you get through to?
Yes, so that's the final 2 stages. So the initial online stages are kind of they're changing them a bit, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but they're multiple choice online tests, and they're kind of marked by, you know, right or wrong, and you get so many out of, you know, however many questions there are. So there isn't much feedback that we can kind of give you for that. But once you get through the assessment centre stage, then it's more difficult, and it's easier to give you feedback on your performance and your sort of individual strengths and weaknesses.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hannah, are you rushing off, or are you able to stay for a little while? Great time with everybody. At this stage, I'd like to thank you again for speaking. I think our little guests are now going to leave us, and we're going to welcome our speaker from the British Council. So, thank you guys so much for coming.
We'd love to come and visit your school.
We're just down the road. I'll send you the details.
Good to see you.